This good?
You guys can come closer, but as long as whoever talks stands where he's standing, that's what's perfect. Whenever you're ready.
All right. Thank you all for coming today. My name is Antonio Williams, Antonio Williams. I am the founder and co-executive director of Tone Up. We're a reentry organization in the Twin Cities. I served 14 years in the Minnesota Department of Corrections and a lot of those years in Stillwater. What you see today is a response to the closing of Stillwater, the announcement of the closing of Stillwater. Behind me are justice-impacted people, families, and concerned community members. We have come together to say that this move is too big of a move to happen without the input of greater, wider community input, specifically justice-impacted people who have served time in Stillwater. We have come together to create a coalition, and we have some demands that must be included during this transition. One of these demands is the creation of a transitions coalition led by formerly and currently incarcerated people at Stillwater with representation from all stakeholders impacted by this closure. Full implementation of the 2023 MRRA earned time law for before transferring any incarcerated individuals. 3, establish safety protocols for the transition, including preferred cellmate selection, availability of single bunks across DOC facilities, ensure people keep their property with the transfer and allow those with life sentences to remain at Stillwater through the end of the year if they so choose. 4, develop a no new beds policy blueprint that uses law and policy changes to close Stillwater without expanding incarceration elsewhere. No new prisons. We want to make it clear that the closure of this facility is a financial move and that the closure of a single building or facility doesn't speak directly to the problems that exist within all Minnesota prisons. We want to counter the concerns and needs of we want to center the concerns and needs of an incarcerated population, a population whose voice has never been considered when choices are made that impact their lives and the lives of their families, said Zeke Caligiuri. We know what happens behind those walls. We lived it, said Kevin Reese, executive director and founder of Until We All Free, and a member of the coalition. Shutting down Stillwater is not a community victory if the people who are there are not considered. This isn't just about a building, it's about people. So what you see today is the beginning of a coalition, a team of justice-impacted people who say no more choices that are impacting our lives without our voices, without our input. What you will hear is a list of demands and suggestions and input from people who know what the people who are going to be transferred will face. And we have input to mitigate violence, mitigate things that are going to happen that no one understands because they have not been in those walls. So we're saying no more. We are saying we have come together, we are united, and we are speaking with one voice to say we must be included. This is too big of a move to happen without our input. Thank you.
All right, test. Good. All right. All right, my name is Zeke Caligiuri. I do community engagement work with Minnesota Justice Research Center. I also help run the Reenfranchise Coalition, a coalition of justice-impacted men and women who advocate for the responsible treatment of those incarcerated and formerly incarcerated populations. I want to reinforce what we were speaking about earlier around the idea that, yes, this is a very outdated building. Yes, the construction and the infrastructure is expensive and at a point too where it is causing much more harm than it is causing benefit to the people who have to live there, the people that have to work there. I want to emphasize the point, though, that most of the harms and the most significant harms and abuses that exist within our prison system in the state of Minnesota was not caused specifically by a building. It is by the actions and the choices of those who facilitate these buildings, which gives us a space where this can be looked at in a sense that it is wonderful that something so large and so old and has had such an impact in people's lives in this state is going away. I support that idea. However, I think what we need to really look at is that the rest of the facilities in our state have plenty of problems that don't necessarily deal with infrastructure, that are related to the way human beings treat other human beings. And we want to make sure that we are bringing it back to the center around the needs of the people who have had to live in these places and continue to have to live in these places. Simply to move people out into another facility, into other places, we need to make sure that we are creating the conditions. Some of those examples are in our demands. We need to make sure that we are creating the conditions so that people that are moving into this don't feel the same pressures that are created by overpopulation, as has happened several different times in our history here. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to reimagine what the insides of these facilities can look like, the way the system and the discipline system and the way a punitive system that has not considered the opinions of the people who lived in those places for many years can be reshaped and reimagined in a way, right? We are trying to figure out a way where we can transform the system for the long run so that the experience of the incarcerated in this state is much more conducive to an idea of transformation and personal change and benefit. And we're all here together gathering at this point too to make sure that those needs are being addressed and that those voices are being heard. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jeffrey Dorslowey, Jeffrey Dorr-Slowey. Anin Buju, Mikagabo Indigenous Kas, Migizi Dodem, Mise Zagai Ganin, Nishnabe and Dujaba. I'm here to let the Anishinaabe culture, the indigenous culture, the brown, the Asian cultures of this population know that we're all here to support them, that we'll be challenging policies, possible laws, trying to give better support for you guys that are going through this transition in this period in time. I just want y'all to know that we're all here fighting for you. Thank you.
This part of being technically challenged, huh?
You need help?
I think I got it. I'm slow, but yeah. Alright, look here. Who the thunk it? Who the thunk it?
Is it possible to speak up a little bit?
Oh, no problem.
Thank you.
We don't even need these lights. All right, that's the last thing you got to work on with me.
No, just
I know, I'm just messing with you. I'm just
stay stepped forward.
Okay, no problem, no problem. My name is Lavelle Oates, Lovell, Oates, Oates. I am owner of LNO Consulting. I'm a fellowship at Tone Up. And basically, I've done 22 years in the Minnesota Department of Corrections. I'm here to speak about equity. Basically, everybody's talked about what's going on, what we need, but the main thing we need is equity. And the justice impacted persons that are incarcerated right now and formerly, that's not something that they're used to. And we know this because, again, anytime any bill is passed that is implemented that will help us improve, it always has to go through 30,000 other people. Somebody has to check something, somebody has to do something. But when something happened with the mail, that was implemented before it was even passed. You see what I'm saying? So at this point, with the closing of Stillwater, we've been around long enough to know that there's something bigger. That's not just what's going on, and that's only to those who don't understand, who has never been in that situation. Because again, there are many buildings. There's a couple of them that's worse than Stillwater as far as physical and all of the detrimental things to health. So based on that, I would like just for everyone to treat the justice impacted people with equity. And what does equity mean? I think we don't understand what equity means, because basically, if you were in that situation, what would you want? You see what I'm saying? Would this be okay for you? If one of your loved ones was in there, would that be okay with them? So when I say equity, I mean basically, are you satisfied with that treatment for you? Not are you satisfied with it for someone else? And those are the things that we have to understand when we're talking about human beings. We always state these things and that we do this and do that, but no one really cares unless it affects them. And then when it affects you, that's when it becomes serious, and that's when something needs to be did. Again, so I just appreciate y'all coming out, and I will always say this, because when I first got incarcerated, we couldn't get 4 people to show up around here. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about family members and everything. So the fact that y'all turned out to hear this coalition in the beginning to try to make things right, we appreciate it very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, you up, man. You up. Here you go. Here. Most definitely. See, I'm always causing problems.
Most definitely.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate it, brother. You good.
Trying to make sure. Touching.
Hello?
Good.
Mauricio Ward, spelled Mauricellward. One of the founders of JIVE, which is an acronym for Justice Impacted Individuals Voting Effectively. Good afternoon. What is this universe that can draw justice impacted individuals, COs, DOC administration, and political officials together? This may seem like a question that needs the knowledge of higher mathematics and the skill of a shade tree mechanic. The commonality between all of us is fear. I know fear well. The one of not losing my job and not knowing if I'm gonna be able to make my truck payment. The fear of all my property fitting into 2 bins, or if I'm gonna receive my property once it meets its location. This undetermined place that I'm supposed to be going. I've been there. The fear of balancing a budget. The fear of an institution which stands in our shadows. It has not rehabilitated those sentenced to live within it. It's only punished. And those individuals must answer the question, where has those $1 billion gone, and why my loved one can't come home? I heard a few days ago when I was sitting in class that fear is the acronym. It's fictional evidence appearing real, rational or not. But I also know something else, the power of hope. Truth has always been the remedy to fear. And handling fear isn't about suppressing it, but it's about constantly redirecting it. One activist once described 2 motions in the universe, shrinking and expanding. When the Minnesota Department of Corrections, Administration, and political apparatus decided to shrink the table and transfer, they caused an expansion, what you see behind me. We are now in coalition of justice impacted individuals, not asking, but daring to demand our seat at the table. As audacious as justice impacted individuals demanding their place is the fact that we have power. We know that recently, in a recent election, Minnesota experienced the highest justice impacted voters turnout in the nation. We have recently, in the city of Minneapolis, made justice impacted individuals a protected class to guard against the bias that we're experiencing as we come home. We also know that I dare to run for Minneapolis City Council Ward 5, and I'm the candidate to beat in the race. It is within this understanding of truth that I look into the camera and say, we demand that those who think they control this move sit down with us to form a transition team that will advise on how this move can be accomplished with minimum amount of problems. The CO unions made it abundantly clear that they don't want to be on the menu, nor do we. Because we know historically our community not only are on the menu, but we are the delicacy that's being served. In closing, it is the power of hope, fueled by the shared belief in a better tomorrow that have brought us together. We gather not just to acknowledge the closure of Stillwater Prison, but to celebrate the profound ability to take 1,200 beds and turn them to 1,200 people, men and women, coming home. I thank you.
I'm gonna hook this up to you.
I'm Alyssa Washington, ALISSA WASHINGTON. I'm the founder of the Wrongfully Incarcerated and Over-Sentenced Families Council of Minnesota, a Black-led grassroots organization that fights for justice, freedom, and dignity for those buried by this system. We advocate for those who've been wrongfully convicted, over-sentenced, and dehumanized by a prison industrial complex that profits off of Black, brown, and indigenous suffering. I'm also the fiance of Cornelius Jackson, who has been wrongfully incarcerated for the past 19 years. He was only a teenager when he was taken from his family and thrown into this system. Cornelius is currently housed right here at the Stillwater Prison. So is Nico Redding, a wheelchair user who has served over 20 years past his original release date and was recently diagnosed with H. pylori, which is an infection due from contamination of water in Stillwater Prison. He's been in Stillwater Prison for many, many years. He called this morning and let me know about that, and he's in excruciating pain right now, and they're not doing anything for him, unfortunately. But a change in law can absolutely bring him home, because he was supposed to have come home in 2001, but since laws have changed, his 1985 conviction is no longer being honored, which is a shame. We are here today not just because Stillwater is closing. We're here because real lives are being uprooted and disrupted. People who've been in this facility for decades are now being moved like baggage. Let me be very clear. This transition is happening, so it must be done with care, accountability, and dignity. All personal property must be transferred with them. Clothing, photos, legal documents, books, everything. And when it arrives at the new facility, it must be accepted, regardless of different warden rules. It's not right to force someone to repurchase clothes or essentials just because the rules changed from one prison to another. That's cruelty, not policy. We are demanding zero double bunking. If bunking must happen, then our loved ones must have the right to choose their cellmate. It is reckless and dangerous to place someone from the Aryan nation in a cell with a practicing Muslim. That's not just bad policy. It's how you get people hurt or killed. And we're not going to stand by and allow that. This transition should not create new trauma. It should not result in violence, lost property, or emotional harm. These are not numbers, they are people. We are their families and their loved ones out here. People that we love who are already surviving in cages. So to the Department of Corrections in the state of Minnesota, we are watching, we are organizing, and we will not allow this transfer to happen in chaos. Because when you moved our loved ones, you are moving us. And we will not rest until every single one of them is safe, accounted for, and treated with the basic humanity they deserve. Thank you. I'm going.
Thank you very much. Amazing job.
Thank you.
And you.
Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for speaking. This is what it looks like to unify and not scramble when we're faced with a rapid closure of a facility that's holding hundreds of human beings. There's more to come. What you've heard today is just the beginning. I want to close with saying that this is a coalition that is standing and that is growing. We are standing, we are growing, and we are demanding that we be included in all of the decisions. You've heard the texture, the context of what this move is going to do and what it's going to involve. There are so many layers that is not understood by the outside world because they have no clue of what happens inside of these walls. This is why we are needed, we are necessary, and we will not shut up and we will not go away. The next step is we are holding some town halls. The first one will be Monday, June 17th at New City Church, 3014 16th Avenue South. This is specifically to engage folks around this closing, but also around other things that we've named here, which is MRRA and implementation around that, and complete policy overhauls within the DOC. Please reach out to us. I'm Antonio Williams, founder, co-executive director of Tone Up, but I'm just a member of this coalition. There are other folks that can be contacted around this. We will be unified in what we are saying and what we are demanding. So we appreciate you and we ask that you continue to show up like this and not just today. Thank you. Any questions? Oh, my apologies. My apologies. Typo. Tuesday, June 17th is the correct date for that town hall. And we are open for any questions that anyone may have. If not, we'll close out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.